Welcome to Gear Up with Big Iron.
If we ever have your sale, we're going to work as hard as we can to make sure it's the best sale we ever had.
Hello, everybody. Mark Stock here with Gear Up, brought to you by Big Iron. Hey, I've got a great guest. Rena Striegel is here today.
Got it.
And we visited with you last week or the last episode.
Yeah.
And you're just such a dynamic individual. We knew we were going to have you back. So you're a small town, 800 population town girl from Iowa. And, your parents are still alive.
Yes, they are.
And your dad is still farming.
We still have a farm. We're actually renting our farm ground to my cousin now. So we've kind of, transitioned the operation at least to the next generation on our farm.
And your mom is still working.
She is. My mom is still working. Can't quite figure out how to wrap it up. So,
So when you're talking to all the folks that you try to help with your, the agricultural transition, from one farm family down to either their children or, to whomever they want to pass that on to, you've got some of those experiences you're working on, not only with everybody else, but through your own eyes and your own family.
Yeah, absolutely. We've got multi-generational farm history in our farm. And I was, had the fortune of working with a grandmother that was widowed at a young age and held onto the farm at a time where women did not really own farms. And she took a lot of leadership in agriculture through some of the conservation programs with Farm Bureau, so on and so forth, and was able to transition, her farm successfully to the next generation. But that was done, as we talked about in the last episode, with some secrecy, with maybe a little bit of lack of understanding about some of the things that could be done. And so, when the time came for that transition to occur after her death, people knew a little bit of what was there, but the reality of what was there has been a little upsetting for our family. And so, that kind of is something that sits with me with every farm family. I have a lot of empathy for people who, are very prideful of what they built. They're prideful about their history. They love their legacy stories. I love hearing those legacy stories. But then the trick is always to, go from, being what we historically think of, kind of a stubborn farmer who's just going to get it done the way they want to get it done, to, opening up and being a little bit more inclusive of the information that they're getting, the professionals that they're seeking advice from, making sure that they take into consideration some of the needs and desires of the generation that's coming behind them. And so just getting those people to just open up just a little bit so we can get more information, so we've got a better ability to make good decisions.
Well, I'm visiting with Rena today, who is the founder of the DIRTT Project. And just for those that didn't hear the last episode, why don't you remind us once again, what is the DIRTT Project?
The DIRTT Project is just a comprehensive succession planning course that was developed as a kind of a call to action by a farmer who just flat out told me, loved everything I had to say, but couldn't figure out how he could pay to work with me. And I just thought that was just a challenge that needed to be met. And so we set about putting together the things that I would do with a farm family on the farm. We put it all together into a comprehensive program. So farmers who want to come and maybe learn about what a succession process should look like, get a few questions answered, get some things they can do on the farm themselves, can come to class and spend some time with me and then hang out with me for about another year, because we stay in contact with all those farmers and we give them, what they call the good old accountability factor after the fact, to make sure that what you learn in class you can take home and put to work on the farm.
So you're going to do one of these 3-day classes coming up here in December in Des Moines.
Yeah. Yep.
When are those dates?
December 2, 3, and 4.
That's a Monday, Tuesday, and a Wednesday.
It is.
First Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday in December.
Yes.
And you'll be in Des Moines. And if people want to participate in this 3-day event, all they have to do is go to your website and sign up.
Yep. It's thedirtproject.com, and DIRTT is spelled DIRTT. So 2 T's on DIRTT. You'll go right there. You can see a rough agenda. We're still adding some new content. We just had a discussion about that today, about what Mark is going to bring to the table as one of our instructors. So we've got a rough agenda. You can see the instructor profiles. You can see the testimonials of people who have gone through the program and get more information. And most importantly, you can register.
Yes, register to participate because you could sell out.
I fully expect that we will sell the seats that are available. But we do, for those of you who are kind of those last minute decision makers, we are going to be doing a live stream of this event, and it will be interactive live stream. So unlike the webinars that you might go to where you just sit there and statically watch, you are actually going to be able to interact with our speakers, ask questions, participate in Q&As, so on and so forth. So you're going to get as close as we can get to being in the room through that live stream platform.
So go to DIRTT.com and get registered right away for that December 2, 3, and 4 event coming up in Des Moines. And this is an event for people that want to transition their farming operation, maybe not necessarily today.
Maybe not today.
Maybe 10 years from now.
Exactly.
You have people from all different demographics and ages and different planning strategies attend these. There are some people that are really pro-plan.
Yes.
And there are some people that are no plan.
Yes.
And of course, that can be a challenge in itself, I think, right there.
Yep.
But say if I was retiring, what can I learn from attending this workshop if I'm somebody who is going to retire and I want to transition out of farming because I don't have anybody behind me? What should I be? Why would I attend?
Well, I think the interesting thing is that there's this really, really cool phenomena that is happening in farm succession, which is there are a lot of farms that do not have lineal descendant successors. But there are still a lot of farmers out there that really want to invest and give a young farmer an opportunity. So we are seeing a lot of non-familial succession planning happening. And I just was on a call yesterday with one. And I think the cool thing about those is it has all the flavor of a succession plan without some of the emotion and some of the dynamics of having a family transition. So what we've seen is we've actually had farmers come that have no successor, no young farmers in mind, but they want to learn, what does it take to do this? What are the questions I should ask? How do I identify the right young farmer? Over what time period should we be looking at these transitions? How do I have confidence that that farmer will be able to handle it? What happens if they can't? And so we have farmers that are coming in with all those questions and sitting in class right alongside a more traditional model of lineal descent succession, learning right along and getting great ideas, plans, and strategies for how to go back to their farms and implement, making sure that their family farm stays in a family.
Yes, I think it's the key component to that is finding somebody that actually wants to take over that operation. Is that not the biggest part of it?
Yes. Yeah. There's just so many barriers to the way we think about succession planning, all the way from the conversations are too hard or the dysfunction is too great, all the way up to the financing and the debt load is too high, right? So you get everything in between. And oftentimes it's a big combination of lots of things, right? Families have a lot of complexity from concerns about, whether a son or daughter may have some issues with financial literacy, or maybe there is some spending issues or a drug addiction or an alcohol issue. And we've got a lot of that in rural America. And so when you're sitting there facing something like that and you don't know how to help that problem, it almost becomes impossible to think about how do we build that person into a succession plan so we know we can count on them. And so we tackle all the hard stuff and a lot of the really fun stuff. Like the fun stuff is there too, which I think once you can find the path through some of the tough stuff, then you unlock the fun stuff and you unlock all the possibilities for success. And I think that's one of the great things about helping families with this work is that we get a lot of people from believing it's impossible into belief that it is possible, and then we see that successful transition occur, which is super cool.
Yeah. When should this conversation about succession planning start? So an example I just recently had was we're scheduling a farm machinery sale, and they're having a sale, and the family seems to be somewhat disappointed because they wanted their oldest child to take over the farm, but that oldest child eventually had to say, I don't want anything to do with it. I think that's because they kept it a secret and they weren't really communicating and talking. So when should this conversation about succession planning start? Is there an optimum time?
I I see families starting at every stage of the game, but what I love seeing is sort of the way a lot of younger farmers, because we now have, for the last 10, 11 years, we've talked very transparently about succession. Like I remember being part of Farm Journal's succession planning process way back in the day. And at that point, we were just trying to tell people that there is a thing called succession planning, right? That you should have one. And everybody was like, what? What is that? Well, we've got a will. Isn't that good enough? And if you think over the last 10 years, what has evolved in terms of our conversation about it, our understanding, the resources that are available. I mean, it's just, we're light years away from where we were 10 years ago. And so I think what we're seeing now is as succession planning becomes a part of our everyday vernacular, we're seeing farmers now, stepping into training programs with kids that are really young, 9 and 10, 11, 12, where they're already showing signs of being farm focused and saying, well, how do we do this with our kids? How do we make sure that we're setting this up correctly for them? How do we have the conversations? And right now, farms are competing for their kids' attention because they can go to any tech or trade school. And a lot of times just being a farm kid is enough to open up some really nice paying jobs with some great opportunity.
Great work ethic.
Right. And to say, how do we make sure that this farm is as attractive as any other job that they could get out there? So, when we start really young, we not only can start to create that anticipation of being able to work on the farm, but we can also set expectations for what does that entail. So do they have to get a degree? Do they have to work away? Does everybody get paid the same? Are you going to get paid different? What if it's your cousin? How do the cousins make sure that we are on the same process for bringing them home so that we don't have looking over the fence going, well, he got a truck. Why didn't I get a truck? Or he got a higher pay rate. Why? So those kind of things, when we think about those in advance, we can get things in place to help with that. But of course, the majority of farms are coming a little later, right? Kids are already home. We maybe have already made a few mistakes. We've got some things that are already causing some friction and tension. And, for farms, I would say it's never too late. It just takes action to correct. And so we get farms coming a little later to the party, and we still can get things in place that's going to make sure that transition occurs and that everyone remains healthy and whole at the end of the day.
Now, I've been in one of your workshops. In fact, I've been in a couple of your workshops, and some of the participants in your workshops are families that have already lost one of the principals in an accident or a death or result of an illness, and so those folks, it's not open just to families that are working with a mom and a dad transferring on. It's if you've lost a spouse, come to your workshop because you can help them.
Yes. Yeah. We get people that have been widowed. We've really got every gamut. And, one of our instructors actually, his oldest son now no longer speaks to anyone in the family because of a lack of a succession plan. There was no plan. The young man got incredibly frustrated. It caused a lot of tension. It caused a lot of arguing. Child determined, I don't need to be a part of this. I'm out. I left. And he's not, in 10 years, hasn't spoken to his parents. And he's just started speaking to his siblings. So, we've got everybody in the room, right? And we've got instructors that can talk to some of the painful aspects of lack of planning or making decisions to just kind of keep putting it off, right? Like you can go to now every farmer has been to some kind of conference where they sat in on something, heard some sort of strategy, said, oh, we got to get started. They get home, they don't quite know how to get started, so they don't do anything because we've either got to plant, we got to harvest, we've got calving season.
Clock never stops.
Right, there's always something. And I oftentimes say, the succession planning is the easiest thing to put off because we always have something to go farm, right? We're just going to go farm something. And so away we go. And then next year they're like, oh yeah, we went to that conference, but what did they say? Who even was that? Anybody still got their card, right? And so every time we put that off, we're basically creating a scenario where we got to start over. And so what our goal is to make sure that you come to this, you will not start over. You are only going to be moving forward from there. And so our hope is that we can disrupt that cycle of start, stop, because every time you stop, friction,
finish.
tension,
Start, finish.
increases. And now we've got a little less trust. We've got a little bit less faith. We've got a little less belief that this will ever happen. And unfortunately, then what happens is young farmers start to move 1 foot out, right? They've got 1 foot here because they're still hopeful, but they start to move their money and their time, and 1 foot starts to go here. And now all of a sudden we've got a kind of a side hustle that's starting to take up a little bit of time. Pretty soon, there's still no clarity here. So that side hustle becomes more of the hustle.
Wow.
And then pretty soon we've got farmers that are uncertain about if a succession plan to their children will even happen. So we can get rid of that.
That's the goal.
That's the goal.
Well, agriculture has changed so much in the last 20, 30 years. The amount of money invested into putting a crop in the ground now is a substantial investment. So it takes a certain type of fortitude,
It does.
I think, to be able to fathom the money that you are putting out there and understanding all those dynamics. But you bring in different presenters, like you said.
Yes.
And so let's talk a little bit about the range of conversations or the range of topics that are discussed during your workshop in Des Moines coming up here in December.
Yeah, I think, to start out this discussion, the one thing I'd like to say is that, there's still a lot of confusion in the world about succession planning, right? 10 years ago when that became like the topic, everybody said, oh, well, that's the topic. That's where the farmers are going. Quick, let's get a shingle on our door that says we do succession planning. And so there became immediately a lot of confusion in the marketplace about, well, is this
Overnight experts?
Yeah, is succession planning an estate plan? Is succession planning a tax plan? Is it a ownership transition plan? What is a succession plan? So what we've tried to do is, start to educate people about that succession planning involves all of those things, right? It is an estate plan. It is an effective tax plan. It is good financial management. It's leadership development. It's a lot of decision making, and it's a lot of time invested in getting things ready for the transition. So when you come to the DIRTT Project, you're going to see the usual characters, right? We're going to have a CPA there. We're going to have an attorney there. We're going to have a financial planner there. We have coaches there, business coaches. We've got experts in lots of different things, insurance professionals. But what you will see is that the way that those people work together is they work in what we call collaborative teams, which means that no one person is the only person you're going to work with. When you train your professionals to work appropriately together, they are working together to create strategies, right? These are comprehensive strategies that take into consideration your goals and your finances to say, here are the pieces that you need, and we as a team are recommending this. And then we're going to work together to help you implement it. So when you come to the DIRTT Project, you see all of those people along with the farmers that have implemented a lot of the strategies of the DIRTT Project effectively and successfully on their farms. So you've got those guides that can help you through it. And it never tickles me so much as when the professionals kind of sit all by themselves, but the farmers are all busy talking to farmers and coaching farmers about how to tackle some of those obstacles that you run into when you get into succession planning.
Well, what I like about what you're talking about is having all of those different types of professionals, as you say, working, collaborating together. And I know the first thing a lot of our listeners thinking, oh yeah, now we're going to have an attorney. Now I'm going to have a financial planner. I'm going to have all this expense tied to all this. But in the big picture, if you don't invest in that plan now, it's only going to get more expensive if you want to try to do something, or if you don't do anything when you're gone, because now it's out of everybody's control.
Absolutely.
It's a whirlwind of a tornado just come on.
Yep.
You're putting together a team that collaborates to help the individuals save money. It's going to be an investment because you have to, but in the long haul, it's going to save them massive amounts of money.
Yeah. One of the things that I think really is the difference between a big professional bill and a small professional bill is how prepared are you for the discussion with that professional. If you walk into any professional and say, well, we need to do something, but we don't know what to do. So what do you think we ought to do?
Oh my
And they
gosh.
know very little about you. Well, okay, now you're going to pay them to get to know you. They're going to like try to figure out all the nuances. And more than likely, they're just going to finally get frustrated and go, here's, a relatively templated set of documents that will get you through.
Mm-hmm.
Now, if you flip that around and you go into those professional teams with clear directives, right? This is what we are. These are the players. Here's what we want to have done. Here are our objectives. We want to pay minimal tax. We want to make sure that we get some of this transition during life, whatever it is. Okay, well, now they're working with a set of parameters where they don't have to figure out who you are. They can work off of that and start to develop strategies for that. So you're kind of taking the fact finding, which is always kind of the time consuming and much more costly part if you're working with an hourly person. Or you can go in prepared and ready to talk about goals and objectives and what you will and will not accept or want to see in your plan. And that will cut down the time immensely. So a lot of times working with a professional is a lot, if you take the ownership on yourself to educate yourself about how to work effectively with them, then all of a sudden those bills are very manageable. And sometimes you can find professionals that will work on a project basis. So a fixed cost, and attorneys are even going to this now where they'll do a fixed cost for a project. Well, then you don't have to worry about what the pie in the sky amount could be for dilly-dallying around and not getting things done. On the flip side of that too, whatever cost you have to get into a plan is going to be nothing compared to what having no plan is going to cost you in terms of having professionals have to unravel everything that you didn't put in place. That is where the big expense comes, is when there's no plan.
So this workshop is that first week in December of this year.
It is.
You're going to offer it to people virtually if they can't attend. But if you can't attend either in person or virtually, you told me here earlier today that you drive all over the United States.
I do.
To visit with people that want more information about succession planning. And you've been to Maine, you've been to Alabama, you've been to Texas, you've been to Utah, you've been all over.
Yeah.
And your calendar must be full.
It's busy. It's a busy life. But I think the nice thing is that, everywhere that you go in ag, they've got a neighbor, right? So you end up you see 2, 3, 4, 5 people on any one trip. And so, the effective use of time is really important. So in a year's time, I can see a lot of people and I can make sure that those people have what they need. And so, I always say, well, I suppose you're too busy. I suppose you can't take on any more people. And somehow, and this is, it's still kind of a phenomena to me too, I am never too busy. I always can get another farm onboarded because someone's always graduating, right? For everyone that comes in, another one is well on its way and is ready to move on without my help, because my goal is never to be with you for the rest of your life or my life. My goal is to set you up, get you on the path, and then get out of your way so you can go do what you're going to do. So that's the kind of fun stuff about this, is that we've got farms coming, onboarding and offboarding all the time.
I strongly encourage anybody that wants to talk about succession planning, whether you are the person that is in your senior years or whether you're the person who is your 20s or 30s or 40s, and you're wondering where you fit within the family succession, to start that conversation, to go to the DIRTT Project, THEDIRTT project.com.
Good job.
And sign up for the event that's coming up in Des Moines, or send in your registration information, and Rena will reach back out to you if you can't be there in person, if you want to have her come to your farm and talk to you and your family. It's really important stuff that you have these, in my opinion.
Yeah.
And I think in most of the people that are listening, I hope you take this serious. It's very, very important for you to start your conversations about succession planning earlier than you think. Please don't shock your family at the reading of a will, because most times they are shocked, and many times they don't talk to each other for the rest of their lives. Your children won't talk to each other because they didn't understand what you meant by what you put in your will. You need to have those conversations before And if it's a tough conversation to have, attend the DIRTT Project, and they will help you with that. And it's not a painful experience. It is put on by a joyous person.
It is a lot of fun. Like, we have lifelong friendships that are made at these workshops. In fact, I just went on vacation earlier this year with a group of my very first DIRTT Project farmers. We went on vacation, we went whitewater rafting, we went ATVing, and it was a group that met at the DIRTT Project, and now they have lifelong friends, and believe it or not, they are doing business together. They're from totally different parts of the country. They've helped each other solve business problems. They've opened up some new, opportunities for business, and it's really cool what we can do when we can get, beyond some of the fear, and we just can get into the business of what we're here to do, which is produce food and feed the world and have a lot of fun doing it.
And live harmoniously.
And let's live harmoniously.
Let's live harmoniously. Well, thank you very much, Rena. We appreciate all of your information. Looking so forward to being in Des Moines in December. And I think you're even going to be in Utah in February. That's to be determined, but it's on the calendar.
Yep,
we know that.
We got our first event scheduled for February. So if Utah is a little closer to home, it's out on the website. You can click the button there. We'll get a hold of you and let you know some more details about that too.
Well, the DIRTT Project and Gear Up and Big Iron would like to help you and share this podcast with any family member or friend that you know that may be going through some of the challenges with some estate planning and some family passing on to their next generation, to their neighbor. And until next time, we are so excited that you're listening. Please like this podcast, and we'll see you the next time here as we gear up, brought to you by Big Iron.